Welcome to Cosmic Diaries. This is Priya Kale, your astrologer, and welcome to May. We're entering a big month and we're already halfway through the year. I can't even believe it. So, but here we are in May. As we enter the month, we are in Taurus season. And this month, Jupiter, we're heading to the Taurus new moon on the 11th of May. And then just 2 days later, Jupiter changes signs and enters Pisces on the 13th of May, followed by Saturn's retrograde station on the 23rd of May, and then a big lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on the 26th of May, and then finally Mercury stations retrograde just before the month ends on the 29th and takes us into June. So it's a big month. A lot is changing. The scenery is changing rapidly. But before we rush ahead to the eclipses and Jupiter, let's talk about Taurus season for a minute. We're still very much in Taurus season, and Taurus is a sign that asks us to take life a little slowly and move slowly and savor life and cherish these moments. We are now, as we enter May, earlier today, the sun was square Saturn. And well, before I even get into that, a powerful full moon in Scorpio, which took place on the 26th of April. And that was a very emotional lunation. Pluto stationed retrograde the day after that full moon as well. So a lot has come to the surface. We're seeing a lot of hidden potential and buried potential. And we're also seeing darker realities perhaps that we'd rather not acknowledge. But this is never about anyone else. This is always a full moon, and life really asks for self-reflection. And with Taurus and Scorpio, the message always is about surrender and letting go of control and power struggles. So no one or nothing can have power over you unless you give that away. And the more you can let go of clinging to anyone or anything, you can reclaim your power in situations where you felt powerless. Over the past week, the Sun, Venus, Mercury made conjunctions to Uranus. Well, over the past couple of weeks. And this has shaken up a lot. Uranus aspects will bring unexpected developments. So we've had to deal with surprising events, perhaps, at best, that have been breakthroughs, but where there's been a sense of, feeling the ground shaking beneath your feet. Trust now that what's shifting is taking you forward into your future. But Taurus is a sign that likes its stability, and it doesn't like change and doesn't like sudden change, which is something that we're all having to get used to wherever we have Taurus in our chart, and ever since Uranus has entered the sign. And of course, we are in under the influence of the Saturn Uranus square all of through this year. The first Saturn Uranus square took place on the 17th of February, and this full moon in Scorpio triggered that aspect. And then come June, we're moving to the second Saturn Uranus square, and then the final one will be in December, which fully separates only in pretty much early 2022. So we're very much still in a process of major shifts. As you all know, 2020 changed all of our reality and the face of our reality as we know it. So entering 2021, even in December 2020, Jupiter Saturn made a conjunction in Aquarius. And if you haven't watched my video for January, I would suggest you watch that, because as I mentioned in that video, what unfolded in January really set the stage for 2021. So something that was a seed or a vision back then is now beginning to take tangible shape and form. And as we move through May, because that first Saturn Uranus square on February 17th, now we're entering, as we enter June, we'll be in the second phase of this transition, or transition of creating a new reality, of shaping a new reality. Because as we've seen, there's no going back to an old way of being. And now we're having to create a new world and new foundations. But how do we do that while not losing, while staying rooted in our values and our integrity, but leaving behind what is dead and gone? So, which brings us back to this waning cycle that we're in, because we're moving to the Taurus new moon on the 11th of May. And today, on the 3rd of May, the moon is in Aquarius right now and reaches final quarter with the sun. So, where, over the past couple of weeks, we've had to break through our own patterns, and where we've been stuck in patterns, and accept reality as it stands, even the parts that we would rather not, acknowledge. Only then can we, in acceptance of reality, only can we find the power to change it. And as we move through this last week of the waning cycle and to the Taurus new moon on the 11th of May, this is a chance for deep release and emptying out and uprooting what no longer serves you, and letting go of emotional baggage, and clearing space even physically, because Taurus is very physical energy, and what's happening now are very tangible physical shifts in the area of your life ruled by Taurus. And Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, these are the fixed signs. So this is where energy stays in place for a long time, and where we put down roots. And now there's a sense of, if you're feeling uprooted, this is a chance to really dig deeper for your values and what really matters in life, because what's real will never leave you. And what's real is this life that you've been given. And Taurus is very creative energy and very fertile energy. And what's unfolding now is certainly, revealing hidden potential and unearthing buried potential. But this will also call for a release of the past so we can embrace the future and consciously step through the gates of the future, rather than staying stuck in old patterns. And really, right now, it's like life is pushing us to change. And the question is whether we go willingly or whether we go feeling dragged in the mud, you know? So, the more you can surrender to a process and be patient with the process, because Taurus is again a slow moving sign. So, be patient with the process of change, but also surrender to where there are changes taking place. Then there can be a sense of liberation, even. So, where how boundaries have been pushed in the past couple of weeks. Today, the sun was square Saturn, and we're also having to reflect on our limits and the boundaries that we will not cross. It's more like where there's been a sense of an obstacle now, you're seeing a way around it. And maybe that exactly it's about going around an obstacle rather than trying to ram through it. And squares will always ask for resolving energy internally. So there's a need for, as you enter this month, finding your inner strength, and you're discovering your inner resilience. It would also help to examine your relationship with your father and authority figures, and then reclaim your own sense of authority. Because at least in your life, I mean, right now the world is in a sense of seeming chaos. And if Uranus is chaos, Saturn is order. So we're trying to find, the whole world is, we're trying to find new order amongst that, to come out of this chaos. And this can be very creative chaos. So it does not have to be, you know, destructive by any means. It's a matter of how we channel this energy and how we shape this energy. So as you move to that new moon in Taurus, really it's a chance to empty out and release the past. Releasing does not mean that you need to shut the door on anything or anyone in your life, because yeah, a lot has shifted and relationships are being highlighted with Taurus. Taurus represents our finances, our money, our all physical tangible possessions, valuables, but also our closest relationships and bonds. And with recent aspects and Uranus being in Taurus, our relationships have been shaken up, and we're being asked to dig deeper for our core values and let go of superficial attachments to how something should look like, or, you know, trying to control someone else, or because you can't control others, we can barely control ourselves. And with Taurus, relationships are not something that you possess. You don't own, we can't own people. At best, you can love someone. And any relationship, whether it's family or uh, marriage or partner or friends, any relationship, we don't know how long we have. The Taurus Scorpio axis reminds us, if Taurus speaks of life, Scorpio, the other end of the axis, deals with death and transformation. So, something and resurrection. But as we come down from that Scorpio, sorry, I've gone on into the Scorpio full moon so much, but it really is what's unfolding now is laying the foundation for how the rest of May will play out. So, if you're sticking with me, thank you. Uh, it's how we surrender to this process of change. Doesn't mean we have to shut the door on anything, G. Especially as we enter the new moon and the new cycle. It's a brand new cycle filled with potential, because so this Taurus new moon is like emptying a vessel. And then as the new cycle begins, we're entering whole new territory. Now let's really get into May, because tonight Mercury enters Gemini. And as I mentioned, at the end of the month, where Mercury will station retrograde, Mercury enters shadow phase around, I think, on the 14th of May. I'm sorry. I'll add a note for that. But with Mercury entering Gemini, communication definitely can improve now. But part of communication is being willing to listen as well, and keeping an open mind, because so much is changing this month, that and you don't know it all by any means. So the best you can do is stay open and keep channels of communication open. Then you can learn what you need to know and make informed choices and make conscious choices even. Of May, Venus will enter Gemini, and Venus, as you know, is the ruler of Taurus and represents our relationships and finances and all things concerned with beauty and art and creativity and how we relate with others. So, and Venus is the principle of attraction. This is very creative energy, but Venus is the principle of attraction primarily. She's at home in Taurus, so this is very fertile energy. But we are moving to the new moon. As she moves through this week, before she enters Gemini, she does make a lot of aspects. So there's definitely a lot shifting in terms of relationships and finances and creative situations, and there's a lot of potential here. Your values and your integrity matters above all. Nothing is worth compromising your values and integrity for. So if you can remember that, then everything else is fair game. Venus enters Gemini on the 8th of May, and she will be in Gemini until the 2nd of June, when she enters Cancer. So Venus is definitely more comfortable in Taurus and in Cancer than she is in Gemini. Because in Gemini, there can be the classic battle of the head and the heart, or the head versus the heart. But the reason we study astrology is for that awareness, is knowing that this is Gemini is where Venus is transiting, and Mars is just transited through Gemini, and Venus was retrograde in Gemini last year. So if you can look at these periods, you will see what was being highlighted through this Gemini phase. And now it's a matter of, learning those lessons, embodying those lessons, and learning to communicate. Gemini also represents choices. So when faced with a choice, especially in relationships or any matter of the heart or Venusian matters, being be honest with yourself, then it'll be easier for you to make conscious choices and for you to communicate honestly with others. And there's no wrong choice. What matters is that you're making the choice that makes you happy, because Venus ultimately speaks of the heart, and often we'll choose something because we don't think we'll get what we really want. And the truth is that anything we desire because we think it will make us happy. So if we can prioritize our happiness and recognize that that's something that only comes from within, then we can make choices in every moment that lead to a place of happiness. And which includes, letting go of dwelling on things that make you unhappy. So then coming to the new moon on the 11th of May, as we approach that new moon, really there's a sense of emptying out. And even if it feels like in some area of your life, wherever you have Taurus in your chart, even if it feels like touching rock bottom, trust that this is part of the process. As the new cycle begins, this is a new beginning. And hours after the new moon in Taurus, Mars in Cancer sextiles Uranus in Taurus. And now, Mars, I haven't talked about Mars a lot, but Mars is in Cancer and continues to be in Cancer this month. This is very fertile energy, this Taurus new moon. Again, we'll get to Jupiter in a minute, but it's extremely fertile energy. And the Mars sextile to Uranus, there's a sense of new life bursting forth. So whether, you know, again, the seeds you plant now have the potential to really burst into life and grow larger than life. What matters is where you're feeding energy and you paying attention where you feed energy. Because if you stay stuck in the past, you're going to create more of it. And now, with if you've emptied out and if you're really ready to start this new cycle, the Mars sextile to Uranus, there's new life in relationships, and perhaps a situation that you thought was dead and gone, because Mars was the ruler of the last full moon in Scorpio. And now this new moon in Taurus speaks of new life and speaks of resurrection. But it's now a matter of nurturing what is precious and valuable in a situation and channeling this energy consciously and keeping space open so you can attract what you desire and the relationships you desire that align with your values, so you can create something that brings you not just tangible security but a true sense of deepening emotional bonds and emotional security as well, and your own sense of self-worth. So Mars will continue to move through Cancer this month, and early next month, in between eclipses, Mars will oppose Pluto, and that aspect really is bringing home everything that's been unfolding since like summer last year, uh, July, August. But more on that later. But don't underestimate now the power of this Taurus new moon to for you to bring seed and nurture something to life rather dramatically and quickly, because Jupiter enters Pisces on the 13th of May. And there's a sense now that we're seeing the boundless potential in situations and we're moving to the eclipses. So things are going to start changing pretty fast and things are going to materialize pretty fast. So it's important in one sense that you move slowly. And if you're not sure of something, dip your toes, test the waters. And that's why I've been talking about Taurus so much, that you're staying grounded in your values and you're moving beyond the surface. Because Jupiter in Pisces is very spiritual energy and ethereal energy, but it's also very glamorous and magical and dreamy. And it could be very easy to be swept away in something that, you know, or be distracted, swept away in something that false promises. So, but that can only happen if you're not grounded in your values. So I don't want to take the magic out of the transit, and you'll get out of it will depend on your ability, on how deep you can go with it. So move beyond the surface of things and situations, then you can find that you gain not just tangibly in terms of financial security, but also on an emotional and spiritual level, and in your relationships where there's a true sense of well-being and security, which comes from a genuine love rather than trying to hold on to anyone. And of course, Jupiter, I will add about Jupiter and Pisces. It's like Jupiter was in a hurry to get home to Pisces, but now there's a sense of diving into a situation. And when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's like, oh, okay, you know, either are you sure this is what you want? Or then, if this is what you really want, then there are other changes that need to be made and adjustments that need to be made before you can go any further with the situation. Because Jupiter will again re enter Pisces on the 29th of December and will be in Pisces for majority of 2022. So, whatever unfolds now as Jupiter enters Pisces and over the next month through June, through these eclipses, move slowly. Although there's every, life is moving fast and you're going to have to keep up, but it's kind of like that driving on the highway. You just have to keep the speed limit. You've got to, you can't move too slow or you're going to get trampled or, get into a car crash, and you can't speed too much either. You've got to keep on the speed limit. And part of that does not mean that you're paying so much attention to what's going on around you, but also that you keep your eyes on the road ahead of you, and awareness, peripheral awareness. Check the rear view mirror. So that's kind of the scene as we, move into the latter half of the month. So, and at least as the sun moves through Taurus, move slowly, take your time, really get grounded in your values and really recognize what it is that you do value and what you're building your foundation on. Then it'll be easier to make those choices moving forward as you enter the eclipse season and the end of the month, as the sun enters Gemini, and then moving to the eclipse next month, new moon in Gemini on the 10th of June. So, more on that next month. We move to the 23rd of May. Saturn now will station retrograde. And then on the 26th of May, there's a full moon and total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So, this lunar eclipse brings the culmination of the cycle that began with the Taurus new moon. And before that, let's talk about Saturn for a minute, because Saturn now, as it stations retrograde and is stationary in the sky, moving to this eclipse, there's a sense of time standing still. Saturn represents gateways, and Saturn has been in Aquarius now since December. Well, that's too simplistic to say. Saturn represents a lot more than gateways. Saturn represents time itself. And yes, gateways and a sense of limitation and boundaries. But now with Saturn stationing and then stationing retrograde, wherever you have Aquarius in your chart, pay attention, because there's a sense now that with Jupiter in Pisces, there's almost a sense of the floodgates opening. And what was previously a door that was previously closed is now perhaps opening. Or where one door closes, another door opens. There's that. And with Aquarius, it could be that there's not just one door, there's many doors. So Saturn again represents time. So this is about the past, present, and future. And there's a sense of getting that moment of vision of life from the past, present, and future. And then now, how are you going to navigate this as you embody your lessons? So, this is a chance to look at where, you may have had walls that have in the past protected you, but now are only preventing you from making progress, and to take down those walls. Also, these could be walls that are preventing you from or opening up to the opportunities that are surrounding you. And I mean, this could be on an emotional level or on a very, in a sense of patterns and psychological patterns that we have, your mental patterns. So, of course, it depends on where this is all playing out in your chart, but Saturn will now retrograde to the point in the sky it was around the 14th of February in 2021. So, and there's a chance to now restructure, an inner restructuring and inner strengthening of foundations wherever you have Aquarius. And then we come to the full moon on the 26th of May in Sagittarius, and that full moon will be conjunct the South Node. So wherever you have Sagittarius in your chart, there's a sense of, a clearing of the past and old roads falling away. But now you're also seeing that you have freedom to make choices, and this set of eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius began in June 2020. And then the next set was in December 2020. And now we're at the third set of eclipses in this series. And then the final set comes in December of 2021. So it would help to look back at what was unfolding in June last year, December last year, because it'll give you a thread of what's unfolding and the areas of your life ruled by Gemini and Sagittarius that are undergoing this transformation. And where you have Gemini in your chart, life is, your destiny is calling in a sense. But, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives and we'll call it fate. It's that famous quote by Jung. And so this is a chance now to make conscious choices, and which means staying open-minded and being willing to look at reality as it stands and not project your beliefs onto things. As again, life is moving fast, but this is kind of like with Saturn stationary, things are at a standstill, but at the same time there's movement, so it's almost like you're having to stay at speed limit, but at the time of eclipses, it's almost like the universe takes charge or takes the steering wheel. So the more you can surrender to what's happening, and then you can, that doesn't mean you let go of the wheel, but you can steer your course consciously. And a full moon is always a moment of revelation. And in Sagittarius Gemini, this is about truth and honesty and freedom and choices. And of course, this comes up wherever you have Gemini and Sagittarius in your chart. And in all your relationships, because now Mercury will be in shadow phase, and Mercury is also stationary and will station retrograde on the 29th of May. So when Mercury stations retrograde, and its station periods are when information tends to surface. So what's coming to light now at the time of this eclipse is setting in motion events that will carry on for the next 6 months, because eclipses will set the stage for 6 months at a time, at least patterns for at least 6 months at a time, often longer. But it's also, and life tends to accelerate, time tends to accelerate, but Saturn is retrograde. So there's a sense of just a lot of suspense and a lot that hangs in the air. And what matters now is that we recognize that life is a journey. That's what Sagittarius reminds us. Life is a journey, and it unfolds as we move through it. And you can't know now what you will know tomorrow, and you couldn't have known then what you know now. So it's also having that perspective and using that to guide your choices as you journey through life, journey forward, and making those wise choices moving forward, And then Mercury is stationing retrograde, as I mentioned. So there's a lot of information surfacing. The sun is in Gemini by the North Node. You're being shown the way forward, but it's a matter of listening, communicating, and then being open-minded enough to, re-examine your choices and beliefs and opinions. And there could be detours. And as new information surfaces, you realize that you don't have all the information. And it's important that you recognize that you don't have all the information. This is an evolving story, an unfolding story. And as Mercury moves retrograde next month, and we have the Gemini new moon and eclipse, solar eclipse, there's more coming to light. So it's important now that you stay present as you steer your way and be open-minded. Also, this might mean re-examining a situation that you thought you'd close the door on, because Saturn is now retrograde. But this is about humility, because we don't know it all again. And life is a journey. And what's important is that you stay with the process. So there's no time and place for regret. What's important is your awareness today, and then you can create and shape your reality moving forward. And these are the eclipses. So trust that destiny is at work. What matters is that we're listening to that call and surrendering to that call and trusting it and having faith. Because even though the full moon and eclipses in Sagittarius, even if an old roads are falling away, what remains is your faith and the wisdom that you've gained through your journeys and your and remembering where you're ultimately heading to. So Mercury will be retrograde until the 22nd of June, and then we'll move out of shadow on the 7th of July. So we're in a longer process. Whatever unfolds in the second half of May, we're recovering this territory well into, the first week of July. And by then, Jupiter will have stationed retrograde in Pisces. So now Jupiter, after rushing through Aquarius, it's like it dives into Pisces. And then I think on the 20th of June, Jupiter will station retrograde in Pisces. So it's at 1 degree of Pisces. So there's a sense that as soon as we jump into a situation, we realize that, oh, there's a lot more here, potential here. And with the retrograde, there's a need to take a step back and to explore what's present, or then to explore, to make space for what we've seen and what we want to now explore further. But for that, we have to first clear up the past. But anyway, more on that in June through this month. Move beyond the surface of things. Stay rooted in your values, then you won't get swept away in something that appears shiny and beautiful but is ultimately hollow. Seek depth and be honest. Be honest with yourself, be honest with others. And as you can see, you have a lot more, you're not stuck wherever you thought you'd reach the end of the road. Actually, you're seeing new pathways forward and you're discovering a new potential. And you're seeing that there's a lot more to something. So just be patient and move slowly, and you'll find your way forward. And I'll be back with you with more. If you like this video, thank you. And if you're here till the end, thank you so much for listening and staying with me. But if you like this video, do sign up to the channel and hit the like button so I can keep making more. And I'm going to try and do dailies, but it'll definitely encourage me to do them. And sign up for my newsletter for weekly updates, and at cosmicdiaries.com for weekly updates, and Cosmic Diaries Astrology at Instagram. As you can see, I'm not so great at this, but I'm getting better. I'm trying. And I will be back with you with more very soon. But thanks and bye for now.